Hello friends, welcome. Friends, today I am recording second video in one single day, and I am doing so because this topic is pretty important. This is regarding 5G monetization. Now in India, 5G monetization has been a challenge. After having spent thousands of crores of rupees on spectrum and network equipment, operators have not yet been able to monetize 5G. Now there has been one segment of service which is called FWA, which is getting deployed, and we are getting a very positive response from the consumer. But apart from that, 5G monetization hasn't been successful because there are no differential service capability which the end user is able to see on its handset. Because ultimately, handset is the vehicle on which monetization is going to scale up and cover the entire population, because everybody uses mobile phone. Now today in the morning I was forwarded this article, and this article is pretty important. And if you see in this article, it says that AT&T is planning to launch a turbo plan. And what is this turbo plan? The turbo plan talks about differentiating normal internet traffic which moves on the handset by giving a priority over a certain class of traffic which a subscriber will ask for or subscribe to in order to get a better experience. For example, if you are making a video call, and if your video call is getting stalled because of congestion that you face over normal internet, you will be able to get a better experience if you subscribe to this turbo plan, because this turbo plan is going to segment the normal internet traffic out of the turbo traffic which is going to be flowing in the same pipe. Means the turbo traffic is going to be distinguished separately and will assign a separate priority class of service. And for that you have to pay an additional money. So looks like that this may be an opportunity for monetization of 5G services. Now the reason I am doing this video is to tell you that how the Indian situation compares with what AT&T is doing in US, and what kind of challenges AT&T is going to face and what we are going to face in India if we would like to deploy a similar kind of services which AT&T is trying to deploy in US. That's the whole objective of this video. So just be with me, watch this video till the end, and you will really get enlightened with the situation, and you will understand that what kind of constraints that we have created for ourselves in India and why we won't be able to leverage these kind of capability in India which AT&T is doing in US easily without fundamentally changing in certain situations on ground. Okay, so let's go to my article. There is an article which I did long back which was anchored around a decision which was taken by FCC. This was regarding net neutrality, and this article is pretty important, and that's why I am basically taking you through this article. This is very, very important article to look at. Now, why I am talking about this article is that when you are going to give a separate class of service to a 5G user, which is going to be different from a normal internet user, then you possibly will violate the net neutrality rules, right? Because net neutrality says what? That there is no paid prioritization possible. So if you look at this particular chart, this was the FCC's 2015 rule, and I'll tell you what this FCC 2015 rule is all about and why I am basically calling it out in this presentation. But this is important to understand first that what is net neutrality? The net neutrality says no blocking, no throttling, and no paid prioritization. Now, what AT&T has been offering now, and what they want to offer now, which is the turbo plan which I talked about right now, don't you think that it is a kind of paid prioritization? Isn't it not? Because what is happening, the consumer is going to pay a higher price to prioritize his traffic over the normal internet. So then how would AT&T planning to launch this particular service without violating the FCC's 2015 rule, which actually was notified recently? If you look at this article, this particular release on April 24th, 2024, which is an FCC news, which says that the Federal Commission today voted to restore national standard to ensure internet is fast, open and fair. Today's decision reclassify broadband service as a Title II telecommunication service and allows FCC to protect consumer, defend national security and advance public safety. So it basically here talks about that internet services will gain and again be prohibited from blocking, throttling, engaging in prioritization for lawful content, restoring rules which were upheld by DC Circuit in 2016. What is this? What is all these mean? For that, I will take you to another document. And this document gives us a background of what happened in FCC regarding net neutrality. In India also net neutrality rules are applicable, similar to what FCC has just made an announcement on April 25th in that particular document which I showed you. Now if you look at this talked about this 2016 DC Circuit affirmed 2015 rules. Now 2015 rules adopts and ensuring an open internet policy under tier 2. So this point which I mentioned here, the FCC's 2015 net neutrality rules, these principles, these pillars were captured in this document. What is that document? This document is FCC's 2015 in open internet rules, and this is the document, and I will pass on the link of this document which is actually there in my article. So if you want to go, I'll basically put this article and I'll get all the links of the document, and this is the link of this document in this here. You'll open this and you'll get the document here. Now this is all background. There is a net neutrality rules. Just to summarize, there is a net neutrality rules, then there is the possibility to call out for prioritizing traffic of 5G services over normal internet, which AT&T is offering or trying to offer on May, and possibly it will offer, because this is basically not an official document. This was a speculation and probably an inside information that they are planning to offer a turbo plan in order to enable 5G monetization. And my core point is that the point which I am trying to ask in this video or analyze in this video, that if AT&T is offering this particular service, whether it is going to violate or will be conflict with the FCC's 2015 rules, which have been notified now, which were earlier not notified, which were reversed, now it is notified in that particular document, and it kind of lays on the principle of no blocking, no throttling and no prioritization. And if it can be allowed, what are the main criteria on which these can be allowed, and whether these can be applicable in India or not. That is in simple, which I want to talk in this video. Okay, so let's go further in this article which I have written, when every question has been answered in this article, right? So before I start explaining these issues which I brought before you, let's talk about what is a 5G network pipe. And this is important to understand. So here is the diagram of a 5G network pipe. So what is happening in this pipe? So there is a 5G network, and in this 5G network there is a general slice. This is typically fully capable 5G network, not the non-standalone network, which is not a 5G network, by the way. It is a pre-5G network because it kind of integrates 4G and 5G together and uses the 4G core. These capabilities of slicing in the manner which I am describing here does not exist in a non-standalone 5G network. It is a full standalone. It is a standalone 5G network which I am talking about here. So there is a general network slice, and then there are smaller slice which is called the slices which are the traffic flow, which will be going without using internet. So these are going to basically these are the slices which you can basically create and you can prioritize, and this is the common slice where the general internet traffic is going to flow. Right, so these are small, these are green, yellow and red which I am talking about. This is what the turbo plan is going to offer. This is the path on which the turbo plan is going to run, which is going to be completely different from the general internet slice. Now the general internet slice is going to run on best effort basis, and these are going to be prioritized, and these are going to be separate from the general internet pipe. This is what is being planned today, right? Now let's go further on this. So what will happen is that now the question is that will it violate? whatever I showed you, will it violate that FCC's 2015 rules? So what I have done is, when you go to this article, you will go and find a section 35 in this article. There is a section called 35. So if you go down and you look at it, this is the section 35 which I have extracted in my article and which is pretty significant. And let's read this section clearly and thoroughly and understand it, what it is talking about. It says, non-broadband internet access service, data service, the 2010 rule includes an exception called specialized services. So what it is saying is, there is a concept called specialized services. Let me just put my pen. Specialized services. This order likewise recognizes some data services like facility-based VoIP offering, heart monitoring, energy consumption, etc. may be offered by broadband service provider but do not provide access to internet generally. So these are going to run without running on internet generally. The term specialized services can be confused because the critical point is not whether these services are specialized, it is that they are not broadband internet services. You get it? These are not broadband internet services, which is basically captured in this FCC 2015 order, which has been notified. The IP services that do not travel over broadband internet access services, like the facility-based VoIP services used by many cable customers, are not within the scope of the open internet rules, right? Which protect access to broadband internet success. It means those three pillars are going to be applicable only on the open pipe. What pipe? This pipe. This is the pipe which I have talked about. Not for the other pipe. So this is the pipe. So this pipe. Not for these. Not for these. This is what is being talked about here, right, in this paragraph. And then there is one important point which is extremely important to basically note here, which says, which I have underlined with red color. It says that nonetheless, these other broadband internet service data services could be provided in a manner that it undermines the purpose of the open internet rules and therefore will not be and that will not be permitted. So what does it mean? So let's go and understand this. This is very, very important for India, and then you will understand what is going on here. Now it could be possible that this 5G pipe may not be thick enough. Means it will be a small pipe, it will not be big pipe, and therefore this general internet slice, which is carrying best effort traffic, will face congestion when these slices, which are running on not on open internet, which are being prioritized, become excessively large in volume, and therefore they can squeeze and make the general internet slice pipe thickness. They can shrink the thickness of the general internet pipe. Means this pipe might become smaller in nature, therefore which will squeeze the traffic which is flowing on general internet at the expense of carrying prioritized traffic. And that's what the rule is saying is not permitted. It's saying that it's not permitted. Now why I am bringing this again and again in front of you? The reason I am bringing this again and again in front of you is because when you are experiencing services on the handset, most of the time you are indoors. You are not sitting outside under a building or a tree or sitting on a roadside, and maybe you are doing, but most of the time you are indoors. And in indoors, in order to experience high quality 5G services, you need low frequency band below 1 gigahertz, because that frequency band alone penetrates inside the house, indoors in your offices. The high frequency band, 3.5 gigahertz band or the 26 gigahertz band, do not penetrate inside your house. So in order to experience 5G services, so that this capability of carrying the 5G services on the 5G network based on a certain SLA, which carries end-to-end across the handset, which is sitting inside the house, is only possible when 5G network enters your building in your room natively, not through Wi-Fi. Because if it enters through Wi-Fi, these services will not be possible. Okay, so you need low frequency band. No, so what I did was I did some research and I figured out how AT&T is able to offer these services when these services will require at least 20 megahertz of spectrum in the low frequency band in order to prevent these general internet slice to get squeezed. So in this particular slice, suppose this traffic increases, this slice will get squeezed because this traffic will become very high, and this traffic has to be shrinked in order to support the traffic which is flowing not at a best effort level, at a prioritized level, right? So you need 20 megahertz of spectrum at least. If it is 30 megahertz, it's going to be better, because if it is 10 megahertz of spectrum, then what will happen? You will be left with only 5 megahertz. You have to break this pipe into two, at least two, because 50% will be here and 50% will be here. 50% will be prioritized and 50% will not be prioritized, right? So, but if this traffic becomes higher, then this is going to get squeezed further. Let's say this is 75% and this is only 25%. Then the best effort people who are not paying for the priority access will be shrinked and they will be squeezed, and their service quality is going to be hampered, and this is going to violate the principle here which I mentioned here. See, this particular point is going to get violated. This is the line which is mentioned in red is going to get violated, right? Which is not going to be permitted if if it is going to hamper the general broadband services and undermine the purpose of open internet. So when I went and looked at the AT&T network, I found the AT&T has 20 megahertz of spectrum in the 850 megahertz band. You should see that there is a 20 megahertz of spectrum in the 850 megahertz band, right? Almost in all the markets. Earlier it was using 10 megahertz for 4G and 10 megahertz for 3G. Now this article says that they have actually unwinded their 4G network, and they were supposed to unwind their 3G network. If you look at this article, by shutdown by 2022, which I'm presuming that AT&T has got 20 megahertz of spectrum in the low frequency band, which has the capability to penetrate indoors to our handset. So therefore, AT&T can offer these services in US without violating the net neutrality rules. The reason is that it does not, even though those services can be offered at a separate class of category, which is possible under the FCC's 2015 rule, which you can read under my article, because I have evaluated this separately by different types of, because there are different types of specialized services which have to meet a certain criteria. See, these criteria I have listed down here, and what I have done is that I have evaluated that how these criteria are met when you are giving some priority on certain services, right? However, what I have also mentioned here is that as long these services provide within the 5G network align with the four specific criteria, they will align with the FCC's 2015 rule. However, if they do not meet the criteria, the dilemma arises whether the potential 5G network capability remains untapped and the rules needs to be adopted to accommodate innovative services. Then I go further and mention a very important point in my article, which says that a significant challenge arises that these network slices consume capacity which otherwise could serve the open internet. As more traffic gravitates towards these specialized slices, the regulator faces a critical task of ensuring that equilibrium between the two segments of the internet versus intranet is balanced out, right? So AT&T has got 20 megahertz spectrum, but in India the situation is very, very grim. So if you go and look at my website, where I have actually captured the spectrum assignments of the various operators, you will find that I'll go and look at the 700 megahertz spectrum band, which is the band which is used by Reliance Jio for their 5G offering. You will find that 700 megahertz, only 10 megahertz is available, and there is 5 megahertz also available, which Reliance Jio can take to expand their capacity to 15 megahertz. But unfortunately, this is not part of the forthcoming auction, and it's going to be likely to be given to railways. So Reliance Jio is going to be block 2 to 10 megahertz of spectrum only in the 700 megahertz band, which has the capability to penetrate indoor. And Bharti does not have any spectrum here. And if you go to the 900 megahertz spectrum, where Bharti has got spectrum in the low frequency band, 900 megahertz, you will find that the 900 megahertz spectrum, the spectrum assignment of Bharti is such that they can't even find 5 megahertz of spectrum block for their 5G services, because this is already being used for 4G. So and their network is not yet standalone. It is a non-standalone, so they have to continue to rely on their 4G network. They cannot unwind their 4G network without having a parking spot to deploy 5G and then expand their network to enhance their 5G network capacity. So they need a parking spot, but this block of spectrum is not good enough for them to provide the parking spot. Now you may say that, oh, by the way, 800 megahertz spectrum is also available in India. So what about it? See, yes, 800 megahertz spectrum is available, but to combine 700 and 800, suppose let's say Reliance wants to think to combine 700 megahertz, 10 megahertz, which they have here, with their 800 megahertz spectrum here, which is also 10 megahertz, they would find this very suboptimal, because when you are combining two different spectrum bands to be seen as one, you can do such carrier aggregation only if the frequency bands are spread enough in the frequency domain. Otherwise, what happens is that if the frequency bands which you are trying to combine are closely linked with each other, means they are not spread apart in the frequency domain, then there is a loss in the combiner, which is called duplexer. And that loss can be as high as 2 dB, because 3 dB is 50%, means power goes down by 50%. 2 dB is also going to be a significant loss of network coverage. So whatever advantage that you get in the low frequency band will get lost because of this the coverage loss and the duplexer loss, which you will encounter when you try to combine two different frequency bands which are not spread apart in the frequency domain. So that's why this is not going to work in a manner which we would like to work. So given this situation, if you find that AT&T has got 20 megahertz of spectrum, Verizon has got 30 megahertz of spectrum, but in India we really don't have any spectrum in the low frequency band. So how can you basically start offering this high SLA services in the low frequency band, which requires low frequency band to penetrate indoors? Without indoor penetration, there is no way these services will have any value, because these cannot be extended over Wi-Fi network. Not possible, because Wi-Fi is a separate network. You need to have a native end-to-end connection, 5G connection in your house to able to experience these high quality services, where your quality will be much better than the best effort services. Because in Wi-Fi, whatever net traffic is getting carried is on a best effort basis. In case of normal 5G, which does not prioritize traffic, it is on a best effort basis. So if you have to segment this traffic into a two distinct compartment, one is on a best effort basis, another is on a priority basis, then you can only do so when you have low frequency spectrum band which goes inside your house. It goes inside your house. It gets extend end to end. Then only these kind of services will work. And in order to prevent the net neutrality rules to come in between, you need to keep sufficient capacity for general internet, so that the general internet capacity does not get squeezed while you offer these priority based services. Else this problem is going to arise, which I showed you, because this is clearly mentioned in paragraph 35 of the FCC 2015 rule. Again, let me read out. Nonetheless, these other non-broadband internet services, access service, data services could provide in a manner that undermines the purpose of open internet and will not be permitted. What does it mean? Provided in a manner means what? You enhance these capabilities, services, to expand these services such that these services which are basically prioritized services each away so much capacity that you do not have space for general internet services in your pipe. That will only happen if this pipe is too thin in the sub-gigahertz band, not at the high frequency band, because those high frequency band is anyway empty. It does not matter. 3.5 gigahertz, so much spectrum is available. 26 gigahertz band not even being used. So For monetization of 5G, you need the low frequency band, and unfortunately in India, low frequency band is not available. Whatever is available is in extremely small chunks, and therefore it is likely to violate net neutrality principle. Hence, whatever AT&T is trying to offer in US may not get replicated in India unless you expand the low frequency band pipe to such an extent that you have at least 20 megahertz of spectrum. Best to have 30 megahertz spectrum, but 20 megahertz spectrum in one single band, not across band. Because if you try to aggregate spectrum across band, like say I have got 10 megahertz in 700 and 10 megahertz in 800, that kind of carrier aggregation is not going to work because it is going to shrink the coverage of the low frequency band because of the duplexer loss. Okay, I hope that you understood it, and I think it might make sense now why this is very important and why 5G monetization is going to be extremely difficult in India. Right? We have not prepared ourselves. We have shot ourselves in the foot because we made spectrum prices like gold and platinum, and we have prevented the low frequency band. We have wasted the low frequency band by assigning such a huge quantum of spectrum to public sector units, right? And commercial spectrum in the low frequency band, 600 megahertz anyway is not offered in the auction. 700 megahertz is fully wasted, right? Except 10 megahertz offered to Reliance Jio, rest of the spectrum has been wasted. Not wasted, but very suboptimally utilized. So, and then there are a lot of spectrum. For example, let me give you an example. This spectrum was offered to BSNL in 700 megahertz for their 4G services. Here there are no devices, less than 4,000 rupees, right? So BSNL is offering 700 megahertz 4G. BSNL could have very easily offered 800 megahertz 4G. So if you look at, these are all spectrum which is available in the auction now, 800. So you could have given these blocks of spectrum which is free to BSNL for offering 4G services. It may not have been seamless across 10 megahertz across all the band, but you could have at least 5. Some circles have got 10 megahertz, some circles have 5 megahertz. So this is the quantum of spectrum which BSNL had been given for offering 4G services. This is a mature band with devices as low as 1,000 rupees. You could have got devices as low as 1,000 rupees. BSNL would have got benefited because it is not about network equipment. It is about end devices. If the consumer can't afford a device, how can they actually sign on to BSNL 4G services? Tell me. So this whole spectrum is going to get wasted. This 700 megahertz spectrum band, BSNL is blocking and expanding the growth of Reliance's 5G spectrum capability in the low frequency band. And then you have railways already have 20 megahertz and you're giving another 5 megahertz of spectrum to railways. So you have screwed up the complete spectrum situation. 600 megahertz, you have not opened up. It is an not matured band yet. So that's where the problem is. And that is why whatever AT&T is doing in US, in India, we have a long way to go before we can implement that kind of situation in India without violating net neutrality rules, means without constraining the best effort traffic getting squeezed by the prioritized traffic when you try to run that in a very small chunk of spectrum, which is how much? 10 megahertz only. Because 10 megahertz is not sufficient. You have to run voice, you have to run everything, open internet, and then you prioritize traffic. It does not make any sense. And for those who do not have standalone network, they can't even think of offering these services because it only works in a network which is standalone. These kind of services which AT&T is trying to offer, not in a non-standalone network, which Bharti has non-standalone, Reliance has. Reliance can even think of offering, but Reliance will get squeezed because of this problem which I am explaining to you. Okay? So friends, thank you for your time. I hope that you have understood what the problems of India is, and you hope that what kind of constraint that the other countries are going to face as regarding offering 5G network service level SLAs at the handset level, because if you start offering SLAs at the handset level, you will be squeezing the best effort traffic to an extent that it will make the quality of running traffic on a best effort basis very poor, and other consumers who do not subscribe to 5G SLA traffic will suffer. Okay. So thank you. Let me know if you need any further clarification on this question. I'll come back to you with the next video next time. Thank you for watching the full video. Thank you very much.